Hey everybody, so right now what I got for you is one way to make a shelter out of a 55-gallon contractor's grade trash bag. And you know, there's obviously the real easy way of just cutting a hole in the end, putting 2 armholes out, and you can just wear it as a poncho. You could definitely do that. But if you wanted to have something that's more like a traditional shelter, this is one way that you can do that. These aren't necessarily pretty because you're working with pretty limited materials here, so you're not going to have an extraordinarily large amount of cover, but there are a couple things you can do to make them a little bit more effective. Okay, I noticed I said a little bit more. A lot of guys talk about having these in your kits and stuff like that because they are good multi-use items, and they are. You can use them for a lot of things, but don't expect them to take the place of a real shelter, because quite frankly they don't, you know, and they can't. They just don't have the material and the strength and the durability that, you know, a regular good shelter piece or a tent or something along those lines can. So know what they can do and kind of have realistic expectations, I guess. So the first thing you want to do is you want to find a tree. Do it this way. You want to find a tree. I don't have a lot of pine trees with, you know, like cedar trees out in this area with a lot of low, thick branches that kind of hang out. If you can find one of those are really the perfect tree to do it on. I'm going to demonstrate it on this tree here just because it's got some branches that are kind of coming down. We've got a little bit of overhead cover coming up, you know, over the top here, and that's going to help us out in the first place. So the first thing I want to do is I want to kind of hollow this out so that I've got a little kind of section here that I can just kind of lean up against this tree and stay up under cover from the tree itself. And then I'm going to add to it a ridge pole, which I'll show you how to get here in just a second. Real easy. You just need something, you know, it only needs to be an inch and a half in diameter, but you kind of want something to hang, basically hanging off these branches, or tie it to it and run it down like an A-frame. So we'll show you how to get that here in just a second. Okay, so second thing, once you find a good tree, is going to be to find a pole. And so I found kind of a halfway dead tree here that I'm going to just strip off, and kind of what I want to do is get all these little sharp edges off of it so that it doesn't poke through the plastic material. So just going to straight pole without a bunch of sharp edges on it. Alright, now I'll show you how to get this plastic on there. Okay, so now I've got my ridge pole. What I want to do is go ahead and tie that up just like it were a ridge pole in an A-frame shelter kind of. So, and really you just want to go about high enough so that you can sit in it and your head will be kind of up underneath. Doesn't have to be real high. And what I'm going to use is just some of this cord from my key ring here, just 115-pound bank line. And I'm just going to pull out enough just to make a Canadian jam. Just tie this into place. It doesn't have to be weight bearing. It's not going to be weight bearing. You just want it to stay there so it doesn't move in the wind or the rain. Okay. Tie up my knot. Okay, so my batteries ended up dying in the middle of this, but I'll show you what I ended up with anyway. That's what you get for buying cheap batteries. Didn't actually turn out the way I initially started it. The branches weren't quite strong enough for what I was looking to do. Had one break. So what I went ahead and did is I went ahead and added a second pole to this. And there's different ways you could do this. You know, you could, if you had a lot of branches that were coming down from like a big cedar tree or something, you could use a third branch and get more overhead protection. Or like what I've done here, I've got two so that I've got some good overhead protection here, and then I've got one whole side blocked off to help block the wind. So it really just depends on your situation. If the rain's coming straight down, it's not coming in at an angle real hard, then you could build it, you know, with more overhead. If you had more of a side wind or a side rain coming in, then you may want to build it like this, where it's going to block off a little bit more. You could actually take it all the way to the ground too as well. You know, or pile up some leaves and debris and all that kind of stuff to keep some of the rain from coming in through at the bottom. But you want it to be high enough so that you can sit in it fairly comfortably. So basically what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to get up under there just kind of like this, and it's going to be a temporary thing. You know, it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to stay in overnight. It's not going to be super comfortable or anything like that, but it's going to get you, you know, pretty much out of the rain for the time being. You know, it's kind of, like I said, just kind of a temporary deal. So let's look at a different configuration here. Okay, so in yet another configuration, basically all I'm going to do is just add a third pole here, and then I'm going to widen that out a little bit. So just a couple different ways that you can do that. Okay, so now this one is going to give me a little better coverage. It's going to allow me to get in here, you know, and get covered up just a little more. Let's go over here and pretty much sit inside here and be covered up, you know, mostly on three sides. So if the rain is coming in from my back, then you know it's going to work. And what I ended up with here was three poles coming down and then stretching those out to those 3 poles. Again, it's not a perfect scenario. It's not a perfect shelter, but they're lightweight and they pack away pretty good, and they can, you know, be made to where they will keep some rain and snow off of you and stuff like that. Not the best shelter in the world by any stretch of the imagination. My opinion on these is kind of the same as it is with those cheap emergency blankets. You could do something very similar with a cheap emergency blanket here. It's going to reflect the heat a little bit better, but I think it's better just to have a regular shelter. But anyway, you can use them. And one of the benefits of doing a tree well like this and then kind of hollowing it out is that you then get the benefit of having a bunch of kindling for your fire. So you could just bust this up and you know, clear out a circle out in front of you. You know, make sure you're a good couple of feet, 3 feet, 4 feet away, whatever, so that your plastic bag is not catching sparks and melting on you and all that kind of stuff. But you can have a little fire out there, you know, and you'd be pretty good to go. So this is the trash bag shelter. Not my favorite, but it can be effective. And you really just got to kind of roll with the punches, just like I did, and working with what you've got. If you've got a tree that's got bigger, stronger limbs that'll come out to the side and kind of hang down, you can just drape them over that. If you need to, you just grab some poles and kind of straighten the knots off so they don't poke through the plastic too much, and then you know, stretch it out just like I did on this one. So anyway, it's definitely not a work of art, but it'll work to keep some rain off your shoulders. All right, well, I appreciate you guys watching, and I always appreciate it when you hit the thumbs up button and, you know, like the videos and share them with your friends and all that. That definitely helps me out a lot. And you know, I guess that's pretty much it. I will see you in the next video. We'll have something out here for you here shortly. Stay safe.